Did you make the list? Let's talk about rankings, comparisons, and game-like strategies to grow your authority as a brand. So the BOF, the Business of Fashion, the BOF 500 just came out, and all the people are talking about it as always. So if you don't know, the BOF 500 is the BOF, the Business of Fashion's ranking of the top 500 most powerful and influential people in fashion or in the fashion industry or in the business of the fashion world. Now that started as a list of 500 people. The BOF has been running for about 15 years now. So when they first started, that 500 was like a solid 500. And then as it's gone on, the wording of like being that 500 has expanded and is renewed. New people get added to this list every year, but it's retained its name. Now, I love the BOF 500, one, because I love fashion, I love business, and it's great to see who is being dubbed as the movers and shakers in the space. The Business of Fashion as a magazine or as a news outlet, media outlet, is an authority in fashion, in business. I remember when they launched and they have like built this authority in that intersection between fashion that is quite creative and exciting and business, which obviously is rigorous and it's all about growth. And obviously those two things both equally matter if you're going to be a successful designer or you're going to work in the fashion industry in any capacity. But it's been really exciting for me to see as I've grown up, because as the years go by, people I know or people who are friends of friends have made the list. And it really made me think about the power that lists and rankings have, right? You may know someone in your community and you think what they're doing is amazing. And the minute they make the Forbes 30 under 30 or the minute they make the BOF 500, there's another level of approval. You are who you say you are, or you are more than maybe what you've even said you are. And now the powers that be, like the media gods out there, have like given you a stamp of approval. And I think that's a really powerful strength for a media brand to be able to command, is this ability to basically like knight certain people and say, you have done well and you are now part of this club. You're part of the establishment. You're part of the people who are influencers with a capital I in this space. And again, especially when we think about, it happens less with the BOF 500 and a bit more with something like the Forbes 30 under 30, there is a lot of debate that sparked. What the two things have in common is that people really care about who makes the list. And there's a lot of attention on the launch. There's attention on who made the list. There's attention on what have they done. And especially with the Forbes under 30 under 30, which I think is like a bit more broad. Obviously, business of fashion is like quite specific. Then there becomes another debate. I think especially because, again, the Forbes 30 under 30 is like a young skewing list versus like other things. There's a debate about, did they deserve it? What does it take to get on it? All of that stuff. And it got me thinking about how, A, that's important for a media brand. So if you're building a media brand, there's some free game there as to when you've built a level of authority or a big enough following, start ranking people. Like I always say, I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying it's what happens. Start ranking people, creating lists, very similar to like, you go to a club, are you on the guest list or not? People care about that. That's the same kind of energy of members clubs, like who's in, who's out. Human beings, we love to categorize things so that we can understand. And those types of exercises do that. But in a much less you're in and you're out way, I think about those lists as a form of gamification or a form of what we call, at least in the UK, like non-verbal reasoning. And just stick with me for a second. So if you've ever done, non-verbal reasoning or those logic tests, or you've played a game of Tetris or Jenga, there's a psychological, like, how does this thing fit into this that's going on in your mind? And I think about where I've seen that online, where I've seen that in content, where I've seen that on billboards. And I think about how that could be something that you could use to get the people going in your community. In the previous episode, I talked about how when you think about your content pillars, you need something that gets the people going. This is really building on that concept, right? So I think about how another example of this is Versus during the pandemic, right? Versus was literally people kind of like battling out, and there's always been battles. There's been rap battles, there's been dance battles, there's Bring It On, like this idea of like two sides battling it out to see who's the winner, and the audience is deciding on that. that is always a format to like play with in your content. Doesn't mean you have to stage a rap battle, doesn't mean you have to stage a talent show, but think about how you can do that in a really micro way. So for example, you could be comparing, like someone says, this is the best Italian restaurant in London. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why this one is the best. Like using comparisons is really helpful. I see this a lot because I am in the Bravoverse and I am a huge lover of Real Housewives. This happens a lot. I see a lot of content around like top 5 quotes, top 5 housewives, bottom 5 worst husbands or worst housewives husbands. All of those like rankings and lists and comparisons really get people involved in saying, yep, no, I think that so-and-so's husband shouldn't be on the list of bottom 5. Let's talk about, I'm not even going to say any names. We can do, if you're a Housewives fan, let's talk about it in the comments. Who are your top favorite husbands and maybe bottom 5? I'll send a TikTok. I'll see if I can find a TikTok I saw where there was a ranking. My thoughts will be reserved until further notice. But that conversation is something that everybody can participate in. Happens a lot, especially when we talk about like rap. People will say, who's had the best verse? Who's the best rapper of all time? Who's got the best album? And that debate is something that you want to continuously spark in your content. I think it's very, very exciting. So you might be wondering, is it fair? Is it ethical? Is it harsh? Is it right to rank people? And like I've said, sometimes maybe a ranking of like 1 to 5 is a bit too much. Maybe you want to go head to head. I think you also want to, you can couch this in a way that is really positive or at least neutral and create a space for people in the comment section to get involved. I also think that sometimes, and this is like a challenge and you don't have to listen to me. Everyone can live their life. That's just my suggestion. But I do think that sometimes as brand owners or people running brands, we always want to be safe and we want to please everyone. I always say you can't please everyone. Sometimes having an opinion is the best thing you can do because then a certain segment of people will feel really locked into what you're doing, which is great. Other people may not at that time, but you need a core group that will help you grow. And then you can find other ways to engage new groups. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can talk about games all day. And I have mentioned in the past that I would love to explore this like gamification topic. I think I actually want to explore it with my team first and really dig deep. And then maybe we'll come to YouTube and talk about it in a bit more detail. But there is really something exciting about games and challenges of all kinds. All you have to do is look at Mr. Beast. That is the most successful, biggest YouTuber on this platform. Everything he does is a challenge. Now, I know there's a lot of debate about, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but this idea of can you get from here to here and who's going to get there first? Let's think about Squid Games. Again, another maybe like questionable example, but there are always challenges that we are trying to overcome. And I think the gamification of life actually helps us get through as well. So something that you could think about. I would love to know in the comments, actually, what are your top 3 favorite games to play? It could be The Sims, it could be Jenga, it could be Monopoly, it could be anything. But drop those 3 and then start to think about what can you draw out. Drop those 3 in the comments and then think about what can I actually draw out from them and apply to something I'm doing. In real life experience I'm planning, a piece of content I'm working on, or the way I'm even thinking of dropping the next item in my collection, in my business, and see how that gets people excited and drives participation and engagement in new ways that maybe you haven't experienced before.